Okay, so this is for Things Fall Apart chapters 1 through 4. I suggest you have this video, you have this book, obviously, or the audio files, which I will show you where they are, and your packet, okay? A couple things you're going to need to do with that. Before I get into the chapter, let me show you this first. Okay, here's where we are on the unit calendar. Video, this, I'm going to show you what this is, the storytelling culture piece that you have to do. We'll talk more later in the week about the pivotal passage. And then I will remind you where the reading questions are and what these other aspire to do activities are. Your target date for your mastery check is this Friday. And you are looking at chapters 1 through 4. This is the shortest section we have, pages 3 through 35. So it's not as long as what it could be. Let me show you the resources in here. Okay, the audio files are right here. Here is the chapters 1 through 4. Those slides I'm going to show you quickly will be in there. And this image of the family tree, which I'll talk about in a second. In the packet, you can see this was the mastery check you just completed on the background. And then we are towards the top of page 4 is where you have this. This is your next section, 3.2. How you know that is it tells you in the directions, right? Chapter 1 through 4, pages 3 through 35, okay? So what you need to know as you start reading. In chapter 1 here, you have an image of Okonkwo. A couple of reminders on this slide for the African vocabulary words. And I give you an example on there on page 6. You have the glossary at the back of your book. Okay, use that to give you your brief, they're super short, definitions of the African words that you will find in the text, because you have to look at some of those. The African words are all going to be in italics. So that's how you know they're African words. So in chapter 1, you're meeting your main character, Okonkwo. You have his image here. And you're going to also meet his father through Okonkwo telling you about him, and his name is Unoka. One of the other things you're looking at is the African language and storytelling. And some of those include the ideas of proverbs and idioms. He talks about what they do with proverbs in their culture on page 7 as a narrator. And then you'll get an example on page 8 of an idiom. When you get to that and you're not sure what it is or where it is, you should ask me, okay? Chapter 1 is pretty short. Chapter 2 continues with Okonkwo kind of describing himself as fearless. But there's also the idea of fear of darkness among his people. So you'll also, that's how some of the environment elements come across that you also have to track. You will also see his anger and his personality a little bit more in this chapter. Okay. Here is a family tree. Let me move this for you quickly. You see Okonkwo here, right? And you have his father, Unoka, here. From Okonkwo himself, you see his 3 wives. And you see their children and some of the main children that are named. You see Ikamafuna over here. He's going to be kind of an adopted son that's coming up in a couple chapters. You also have an image in Schoology of this family tree, just with descriptions in it. So that might be something you want to check out too. That might be more helpful. Then as you move on, I encourage you to set a purpose for reading. And I've given you some questions to think about as you keep reading. Also, I'll quick show you the reading guide and remind you of that, but those questions are going to be kind of plot driven and are going to help you understand what's happening. So I highly, highly encourage you to do those. They are a should do, not a must do. But I would want, if you want to do well on your mastery check and if you want to understand this text. People tend to like this book. It's a pretty good book and it's a very easy narrative to follow. As you get into chapter 3, the question about the Oracle of the Hills, what happened to his father Unoka, and what did the wealthy villager Wakibi do? Then in chapter 4, you learn a little bit more about his personality. Here you have a reference to his son and his adopted son, and also a reference to some of the cultural events that are happening with the Week of Peace and an environmental reference to the crops and the importance of the yam. Back in Schoology, a couple of things to remind you about as well. Okay, here's the audio files. If you want to listen to the text, you can do that. Okay, that might be something you want to do. Otherwise, what you have with you as you are reading, you are looking first, chapters 1 through 4, for examples of African words. And I've given you one here, and I got the definition from the back. And you will see that in italic print on page 6. I'm asking you to find more, whatever you see in this set of chapters. I give you from page 7 that I referenced the idea of what an idiom or proverb is and how they use it in their culture. I'm asking you to find either an idiom, a proverb, or just a folk tale. Folk tale is where you have animal characters who are trying to teach someone a lesson by something that has happened to them. Okay. Proverb also, you'll see some key words when you start to see some of the proverbs. Our elders say something. That's probably a proverb. And then also you need to find in this set of chapters 2 environmental references in this chapter besides the one that I give you. So I give you one here. You put the reference to the page number where it's at. You give me the page number and you explain why you think it's important. And then I will talk later about the pivotal passage preparation that you start getting ready for. This is leading towards your halfway point, your unit summative at the end, and then also halfway through the chapters we'll do a short pivotal passage as well. So you'll have a couple opportunities to do that, but we'll talk more about that in another video. If you have questions, ask during class. Make the best use of your time, and good luck.